Greetings, listeners. Greetings, listeners, and welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm Lindsey Pogue, and this week, Lindsey Sparks and I are once again probably going off on a lot of tangents, but we're going to be having some fun. We have a new author on the show today. Her name is Emma Chase, and we just listened to, which is really exciting because we don't get to do a lot of audiobooks.
And we love them.
And we love audiobooks. All of our listeners know this. We absolutely love them. To her sexy, hilarious, and emotional roller coaster romance, Getting Real. So specifically, like I said, this was an audiobook. So we're going to be talking about more audiobook things today, but obviously stuff about the stories in the series and whatnot. So anyways, Emma, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm very excited to be here and chat with you guys.
Yeah, and we were talking before we popped on about how the whole video thing is new. So I just realized everyone's watching you go like this on the side of the screen. So I'm like, okay, Lindsey, let's tone it down a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, I like I said, I used to try and sit on my hand just because, you know, for me, it's a Jersey thing. It's an East Coast thing, constantly using the hand. So I'll just fold them now.
Okay. So anyways, this is going to be fun watching it later. And let's be clear, I'm not going to watch it later because I don't want to watch it later. Okay. So the memories are enough for me. But anyways, for those of you who are not familiar with Emma, she writes contemporary romance filled with humor, heat, and heart. I have read a few of her stories, so this is all very true. Her stories are known for their clever banter, hilariously authentic male point of views, and sexy, swoon-worthy moments. Emma's novels have been translated in over 20 languages around the world. She lives in New Jersey. Okay, with the hands, yes. Okay, this is making sense. With her husband, 2 children, and 2 misbehaving dogs. And she has a long-standing love-hate relationship with caffeine. So I have that as well. So
me too.
Sisterhood.
High five.
So before we continue, obviously we've talked about this before, but there will be spoilers. We cannot control things coming out of our mouths. There will be probably some cursing, who knows? So anyways, enter at your own risk. But before we start talking about awesome book stuff, let's kind of check in. I mean, it's Friday. So I don't know about you ladies, but I'm kind of winding down from a whirlwind week. And so what are we drinking anything? I know it's kind of evening for all of us, or are we just, are we have anything fun for drinking? And when I say we, I mean, obviously I am, but
I came prepared. Yes.
All right, Emma, tell us, what are you sipping on?
I'm having a vodka tonic with lime.
Nice.
Which has been my drink lately. And I've been trying to cut down on the carbs. So I've been doing the diet tonic water. But tonight I have the non-diet, which is just such a treat because it's just so much more sugar. But no, they didn't have the diet at the store. So we went with full-fledged. But yeah, so that's been my drink lately of choice is the vodka tonic. It's nice, just chill out. Yeah. One does the job and it's a good night.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Nice. What do you have? Let me wait. It's going to be
shocker.
It's probably going to be a really nice, smooth, maybe full-bodied red. What are you drinking?
Yes.
It's not like I know you or anything.
Oh no. I'm drinking Scissor Kick Shiraz, full-bodied, nice chewy red, and it is delightful.
Great.
Yeah,
I love it.
How about you?
It's funny, I do have a cocktail tonight, but I have been on a red wine kick lately, but enough about that. So this is extremely full. I didn't make this drink.
Does it have grapefruit in it?
No, it doesn't. So I'm a gin girl, but I'm also a whiskey girl, and my husband is here tonight. And so he is the bartender, and he made me an old fashioned. He corrected me. It's old fashioned, not old fashioned.
A giant old fashioned.
Yeah. He goes, I think this is more of a double. And I was like, all right, I'll sip it slowly. I do have to get through a podcast. But anyway, he put one of his big fancy, he had these like really big ice cubes. And anyway, so it's probably already watered down. I haven't even had any yet. So
that's like the artisan ice. That's the good ice.
Yeah. Cheers, ladies. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what I have tonight. I know usually I have some grapefruit gin or vodka drink, but not tonight. Tonight, well, so Dennis was we're having the family over for an early Thanksgiving tomorrow. And so he was making a marinade he's doing a bunch of tri-tips. And so he was doing one of them and he needed whiskey. And so he's not a whiskey drinker at all. And so he said, which one of your whiskeys can I use for the marinade? We don't have it a crap one, right? And I said, well, it doesn't matter. You're not going to use that much anyway. He goes, well, I don't want to use the one that you really like. And I was like, well, let me test them to see which one I like better. and then so I had like a little tester and then of a couple of them. So I let him know which one he could use. And then he was like, do you want me to make you a cocktail or do you want me to open some wine or something for your podcast? I was like, I've already been drinking whiskey. I think I need a whiskey drink. So that's why we have the almost overly full whiskey drink. Anyway, we can move on from that. Nobody needs to know how much I drink. Okay. The problem is now everybody can see it. Like I can't just talk about it. Like everyone will actually see it. That's a new thing. But anyway, what about what we're working on? Is there anything, Emma, that you can share with us? What are you wrapping up anything? Do you have any book releases coming up? Anything like that?
Yeah. So, the ebook and the print for Getting Real, it released an audio first. So that's coming the January 24th. Actually, the original release date for the ebook and print was January 31st, but now it's been pushed up a week. So it's coming a week earlier on January 24th. Yes. So that I'm excited about. But no, what I'm working on right now, I'm actually working on 2 projects at the same time, which is really weird for me.
Okay.
Normally it's one story and that's all I can think about. It's like laser focused. But yeah, no, since the summer, I started working on, I call it in my head, the Beach House book. I'll be shocked if that ends up being the title, but the more I think about it as Beach House, the more it sounds like
it's going to stick. Yeah.
Yeah, it might. So I'm working on that, and it's contemporary romance, lots of humor. I don't know if I would really classify it as a rom-com, but definitely lots of humor, kind of an enemies to lovers. So
those are my favorite.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And he is the hero in it. I don't want to say he's darker or an anti-hero, but
I like that.
Definitely more morally questionable.
Nice.
Yeah, which is very different from Getting Real. It's kind of like I went in the complete opposite direction.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's gotten kind of, it's progressed. When I first conceived of the idea over the summer, and I was researching it, he wasn't as morally questionable in my head, but it's become more, and I'm really liking it. There's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just love a morally questionable hero.
Yeah.
Like more and more as life goes on, and like you realize, like, I think we need a little bit more like moral ambiguity in the world.
Well, it's funny that you guys say that because, I was reading Theodora Taylor's book about universal fantasy. I don't know if you guys have heard about it.
I wanted to get that.
Yeah. So it's insane. It's amazing to point out how many horrible things we fantasize about. Like we would never want them in real life, but we want to read them and devour them. You know what I mean? We want to live in that reality where it's okay to want the bad guy, but in real life, we don't want the bad guy. Like the bad guy is going to treat us horribly. He's going to hurt our family, or he's killed people. That's a bad thing. Right. But in the, in the books, like we absolutely I don't know. It's just really interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Positive thing to have. Yeah. A hero who's willing to kill for you. That's an A+.
There you go. Right.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So so it's funny that
about that. Yeah.
So it's really funny that that's why, we love the bad stuff because we can't have it in real life, I like it.
And I think it's safe in romance.
Exactly.
It kind of go on the ride, with these characters and experience these emotions and have fun with it and enjoy the story. But yes, I've read Stephen King and I really enjoy his book. I would never want one of his books to come to life.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think the promise with romance too is you always know that it's all going to be okay in the end. Somebody's going to redeem themselves. There's going to be a happily ever after. So it's not like you're going into it and this person is going to be so morally horrible to the point where they have no redeeming qualities. Right. So I think that's the promise we get when we open. It doesn't even matter how dark the romance is. Like there's going to be something that is going to make us swoon and be able to sympathize or empathize with the bad guy. So anyways, it's just so cool.
I agree. Yeah, no. So, I mean, it's been a really fun kind of evolving story to write. And the crux of it is again, it revolves around this beach house. And essentially, for reasons, you know, that are explained, the hero and the heroine are kind of stuck with each other in this old beach house for 4 months. And it's kind of a cross between, I mean, did you guys ever hear of The Money Pit?
Oh, yeah, I've watched it. Yeah.
All right, Tom Hanks, yes. So it's a cross between The Money Pit and 10 Things I Hate About You. It's kind of like a combo. So it's been a lot of fun to work on that. And then while I'm working on that, I'm also working on, it's called Royally Remembered. And it is basically a collection of themes. It's a companion novella to my Royally series.
Love that series.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. You're going to love this one because it really is, it's almost like a little passion project just because it really is for fans of the series who have read all 4 books. Like if you haven't read them, you're going to be lost because it's literally just like scenes that take place, you know, after Royally Yours and then catching up Royally Screwed and then sometimes throughout. So we just kind of, there's just a couple of questions that I think readers would want answered.
Yeah,
and
fun stuff.
Things unfold. Yeah, it was fun. And it's fun to dive back into those characters and to do it this way because it's literally like a collection of scenes. So it's not this big, you know, overarching story that I had to kind of come up with. I'm really able to just touch on these scenes that have just been kind of living in my head, you know, for the past few years. And
that's awesome.
I'm going to send that out. So that's what I'm working on. So it's nice. And it's nice to kind of switch gears a little bit. Because like I said, I think because I know the Royally series and the Royally characters so well, that's allowed me to kind of switch back and forth. You know, because you like kind of when I need a break, either from the angst or from the comedy or whatever, it's just been, you know, really interesting to flip back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on.
Royally Screwed was my first book I've ever read of yours. And I absolutely loved it. In fact, I think I don't know if I've read all of them. This is because this was a while ago, but I know I've at least read 2 of them and I loved them. And they were just so much fun. And so I don't know, when I was talking to Kelly about you coming on, I was like, oh my God, yes, I would love to, you know, whatever you're working on next, let's read it. Let's listen to it, whatever, because I enjoyed it so much. I was like, I know I'll at least enjoy whatever it is. So anyway.
Thank you. Royally Screwed was just, I still think it's it's my most romantic book. Like it was so fun to play in that world because I grew up reading historical romances. Like that was my first reading love were historical. And I didn't think I would ever, Royally Yours is kind of historical because it takes place like in the 1950s, but it's not what I think of as like, it's not Regency, you know, that kind of thing. And I've always kind of dreamed of maybe doing a historical romance, but the research, I know that the readers like are really, you know, dedicated. So I didn't think that I ever would. But it was fun to be in that royal world and to be able to kind of, you know, use some of the conventions and just, you know, the traditions and the language that kind of goes with that. So it was really, really fun to write.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah, your fans are going to really like that. That'll be really fun. Yeah. That'll be really fun.
And what about you guys?
Yeah, Linz, how about you? LF has been in the I know she's been in writing mode, so.
Yeah, I am once again realizing that this book that I'm working on is going to end up being a lot bigger than I thought. And so my writing time is so limited. I have my little like 2-hour period in the morning before the kids wake up. And then if they do nap, then I get my 2-hour-ish period in the afternoon. And so I'm just like frantically trying to get as much written as I can. So this is the second draft, but it's really kind of like a first draft because my first draft is really, really spare. Yeah, it's just, I've passed the part. So I have to do lots of research because it takes place in ancient Egypt. So
wow,
yeah.
Talk about research, yeah.
So there's that problem. So the first like third of this book is so much setting description and setup to make sure people or readers
follow.
understand, like, and can visualize it and stuff like that. That's one thing that I always try to like put in my books, is a lot of visual elements. And I finally am past the part where I'm like, I'm setting up the setting and I'm just able to like tell the story now. And so I feel like I'm finally like, it's like the ball is really, really rolling now. And then there's been like a little bit of like romancy times, and a lot of tension is like, it's just really like really getting in there. So that's where I am. I am like totally bamboozled by my own story. So I'm just like,
now, when you have your writing time, are you able to just like jump right into it? Like, you know that your time is limited?
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while, I like procrastinator Lindsey comes out and is just like, oh, I'm going to look at this other thing just for a couple minutes. 30 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Why did I even let myself do that?
Yeah.
So no, now I'm like thinking about this story all the time. I'm like thinking about it when I'm falling asleep. I'm thinking about it when I'm waking up. I'm thinking about it when I'm like nursing my child. And so I'm just like, as soon as I get to my computer, I'm like, oh, typing. So
that's great. I love that. I love when you're at that mode. I have dictation software on my phone just for that reason, because sometimes when I'm driving, like the best line, especially dialogue, will come to me.
Yes. Oh my God.
I hate that. Yeah.
Yes. It always seems to be happening kind of when I'm doing something else.
Yes.
Right.
Driving, shower. What's the other one? Like out on
walking.
a walk. Yeah.
Yes. Walking. 100%. Yeah. And I used to write it down on my notes.
Yeah.
On my phone, but now I'll just dictate it and, you know, just keep on talking, even if I have to repeat the lines or, you know, go back and change something.
Yeah.
Because it's faster too.
Yeah. I dictate my first draft. I think that's why it's so sparse.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I've been having that issue lately a lot, and I always do, but I mean, I feel like it's been really bad lately when I'm in the shower and I get all the ideas, you know? And so what I've started doing, and for some reason it's specifically dialogue, and that's hard because you can't just like tell yourself, make a note to add a scene. It's like the fucking dialogue, like it's there, like you have to get it somewhere.
Yes.
But what I've been starting to do is when I'm in the shower, and this is so silly, so this is very behind the scenes, guys. So when I'm in the shower, what I do is I will try to remind because I have a horrible memory. So, and because I know by the time I get out and by the time I do all the stuff I have to do with, you know, just all the stuff everyone has to do when they get out of the shower, right? Like and I have to deal with the cats and I have to do all this stuff. And I was like, by the time I sit down, it's going to be half an hour from now. I'm not going to remember anything. Right. So what I'm going to do is I put my hand at my side and I sit there and I tick each finger for each big thing that I need to add. And so by the time I'm done, I'll repeat it to myself. This is really silly, but by the time I'm done, I'll know I have 4 things that I need to add into either my notes or my timeline or a chapter or whatever it is. And because I remember there are 4 things, when I get down, it's so much easier for me to like tick them off again, instead of just trying to remember there are things I need to write down. Like I actually make myself give them like, there's 4 things and one is this, one is that. And it actually helps me. I don't know if that's a dyslexic thing. I don't know what it is, but it actually does help. So I don't know, like when you're in the shower, you can't dictate or write anything down. So
I just end up repeating it over and over in my head.
It's like you have to figure out ways to remember things because
that's great. No, because there have been times where I remember that I thought of a line and I can't remember the line. It is the worst.
That happened to me yesterday.
Painful. Yes.
Oh my God. I was like, Lindsey, you tried so hard to remember this and you can't remember anything. And I was like, oh, I think it will come to me again.
No, it's like, it's the same feeling as when you know you had a dream, but you can't remember what the dream was. It's that same feeling where you're like, I know that there's something in there, but it's like all the little memory pathways are already like evaporating.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Yeah, definitely.
Ugh. Yeah. Anyways, so I guess that's a segue into me. So I have been, I was gone all last week for a retreat with some author friends, and it was really cool to get away from home and away from distraction and be in the woods and go hiking and wake up to just being in the wilderness. I absolutely love nature and just having quiet time and being able to write, and really, because my whole thing is I'm just starting a new series and a new book, but also a new series. And so for me, and I'm writing, it's more of like, it's like this specific book is like a dystopian Gothic retelling of Beauty and the Beast meets Jane Eyre. So yeah, it's actually turning out to be really fun. And so that's why I'm not at the point where like I'm dreaming about it, but I'm definitely at the point where I'm writing like those high tension, like sexual tension scenes. And I'm just like, it's like, stop talking to me, please. I need to like deal with the cats. I'm trying to write or whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? I'm definitely like, I'm on a roll, you know? So it's super fun, but I'm finally starting to get back into a groove, because while I was gone, I was really working out, because I'm starting a new project. I was really trying to really flush out my timeline or my outline, because I was, I need to make sure that everything fits within this world I've already created, because it's a sister series to a series that I've already created. And so it's in the same world. So I needed to make sure that even though it's in a completely different location, like the Forgotten Lands are in the United States. It's a Victorian post-apocalyptic world. And this is taking place in like the fallen ruined city of London and like the countryside. And there's like old cathedrals and graveyards and like old manors.
Such a cool setting.
Like that. Oh, I know. It's so much fun. That's and I'm a history major, so I'm just like, I'm looking up all these horrific things that really happened during the Victorian era and seeing how I can work them into this like Gothic thing, you know, like how can I like bone crunching? Has anybody ever heard of that? Because that's a job that they actually did during the Victorian era, when they had these big workhouses where they had poor people that they had working in there. They had them cleaning and crunching people and animals' bones so they could turn them into fertilizer for whatever. But that was like a job. And so there were actually lawsuits that were going on during this time because people were starving. And so they were worked to the bone, no pun intended. And they were starving and they were so poor that they were actually eating meat and stuff off these bones. Like it was horrible. Like it was this crazy stuff. So I'm trying to, it's insane. Sorry, it's a little graphic, but this is the shit. Like you can't make this stuff up. That's why it's like so amazing to be able to like, I get off on like really researching this stuff and seeing like how much creepy real life stuff can I work into a story without, you know, making it like I'm trying to stay, you know, true to my story and stuff too. But I really like that. But like you, Lindsey, I'm kind of past the setting part, and now I'm really diving into the emotions and the sexual tension and getting to know the characters and stuff. And I'm loving it. I'm really loving it. So anyway, yeah, I've been working on that. I'm finally, after the retreat and coming home and trying to get back into a routine and retraining everybody, because you know when you leave everything falls to shit. But now that I'm home and I'm trying to retrain everything and everyone, we got a new kitten, and so it's,
oh my gosh,
yeah, it's she was good to go when I left, and I come home and anyways, it doesn't matter. It's a whole other story. But anyway, yeah. So I'm finally, like yesterday and mostly today, I've gotten a lot of words in. It feels really good. So that's what I've been working on. And I will tell you, because I know listeners have heard me talk about this, but I finished my grandma's book. So this is the proof or whatever, obviously. But so my grandma, just to know, Emma, my grandma, when I was born, she wrote my cousin and I, there are many of us now, but it was just two of us back then. She wrote this story. She just put it in a folder. And she, you know, she was a typewriter. I mean, this was, you know, almost 40 years ago. She did all these illustrations. And anyway, so on her bucket list, she wanted to publish it, make it like a children's book or something. And so obviously, like of all the grandchildren, it made sense that I took on this project, right? So anyway, I went ahead and I created a new cover for it and stuff, but it's finally done. And so it's so cute. It's like a legit little book, and she should have gotten it today. I haven't heard from her.
Exciting.
But what I did, when you create a book, I mean, you have to, it's only like 1,000 words. So I had to like get creative. And so I had all of my cousins contribute like their own little memories of the ranch and the cat and my grandma and my grandpa, and we put those in the back. So anyway, I feel like I've been working on this project all year. And when I mean work on it, I've had it sitting here and I keep putting it off because I've never done I mean, it's different than doing a novel when you know like how to format it and who to send it to for X, Y, and Z. But when you're doing something that's only 1,000 words, like there's a lot, I was like, okay, it's gonna have to be large print because it has to be at least 30 pages long. What am I gonna put in there for the extra pages? And all the stuff. I had to figure out a cover and all of her, I wanted to use her illustrations that she did, but because they're so old, like all of the paper was really discolored, and she just had it sitting in a box somewhere. So anyways, I had a digital designer friend try and fix them up as much as she could, and so it's kind of just been this kind of daunting project, but I did it and I feel really good about it. And so anyway, she should be getting it today. Like I said, I haven't heard from her, but I'm just excited that it's done and my grandma can cross that off her bucket list. And anyway, so
that's incredible.
Yeah, I just wanted to share it because I've been talking about it
cool.
for I feel like for a year, because I've been keep putting it off, and it's finally done.
So, very exciting.
Anyway, but that's me. I'm supposed to be keeping us on track though. So this is also very important. Before we dive into getting real, what is everybody reading? I feel like, Emma, you have to have something you're reading right now, or do you kind of put stuff aside when you're writing?
Yeah, so when I'm writing, I don't read. There's 2 weeks in between projects where I read everything, old school, a book a day. You know what I mean? Sometimes a book and then dive into something else. But the last story that I read, the last reread actually, was Marrying Winterborne by Lisa Kleypas.
Okay. What is that? What genre is that?
It's a historical romance.
Yeah, because I have a
the Ravenels. I want to say it's part of her Ravenel series.
Okay, I have one of them actually in my bookshelf, and I just wasn't sure if she only does historical romance or.
I think so. Yeah,
okay,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
I have the Winter Serpent or something. I don't know what I have, but anyways, I had one that I read for book club and I absolutely loved it, so it's still in my bookshelf.
Yeah,
so.
No, it's very light and fun. Like I said, I had reread it over the summer. But yes, I tend not to read in my genre or out of my own genre when I'm writing, just because, like I said, it just throws me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Or you get sucked in and then you don't work. That's what I've been doing all week.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I'll just finish it and then I'll get back to my story. And then 3 days later.
Yeah.
How about you, Linz? I know.
Obviously I just read Getting Real, or listened to Getting Real. And then I have been in a dry spell, reading dry spell. But I'm kind of the same way as you, Emma, where I don't usually read, at least I don't read new books when I'm in the hardcore writing phase. But I read Getting Real for the podcast, obviously. And actually that worked out great. It was perfect because it has nothing to do with anything that I write. So it was, it didn't feel like it was influencing me at all. It was just a really fun story. Yeah. So I love that. That was perfect. And the audiobook narration was great. And then I got the reading bug from reading that. And now I'm reading. So this is a lot more similar to what I'm actually writing, but I feel like it's going to work out okay. Rhapsodic I started, which is what LP and I are going to be talking about at the next episode. Yeah. So, yeah. So
I'm going to piggyback back off that. Well, one, because it's my turn, but also because the book I'm checking in about is Rhapsodic is written by Laura, and I feel like I'm going to mess up her name.
I know. That's why I didn't say it.
Thalassa, I think.
Thalassa.
I think. Anyway, I just finished reading before I left for my retreat is Pestilence, which is the Four Horsemen. It's the first book in her Four Horsemen series.
I love that cover, by the way.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Yeah, I think I've seen that.
It's a very beautiful, godly looking man in gold armor and on the cover.
Yeah,
just in case that helps your memory.
So I just want to say, I think she markets it as fantasy, I think, but to me, so I'm a post-apoc author and I love romance. I'm a post-apoc romance author, and to me, I had FOMO reading that entire thing. I was like, this is the best fucking idea ever. I can't believe I didn't come up with it. The Four Horsemen and the end of the world. Why didn't I think about this? This is so smart and awesome. So anyways, I just read that book. So that's why when you mentioned on the next episode talking about this other book that she's written, I was like, yeah, I already have it queued up, ready to go, because I really enjoyed that one. So yeah, I read that, and it's a really interesting story. it's so cool because there's romance, but it's like after the second half, it's not like in your face in the beginning because there's so much survival and world building. It's like, it's very post-apocalyptic in a lot of ways. And it really, you know, when the 4 horsemen come, obviously shit's hitting the fan, right? And so it's really cool to see how she works in how different communities are reacting, and just how she gets mixed up with him to begin with is genius. So anyway, I don't want to give it was great, and I have total FOMO. I was like, I'm like looking at all of these like folklore and like mythology. I'm like, how can I work this in a post-apocalyptic setting? Like this is so smart. I really want to do this. But anyway, yeah, so I did enjoy that, so I was on board to do it for the next one. So that's what I read it on my phone on my Kindle app. I didn't listen to it, but yeah, I definitely recommend that if they're because I know a lot of our listeners are post-apoc or romance listeners, so definitely check that out if you haven't already, because it's pretty good. And I think it might even be free in Prime still, so that might be worth it to check it out too. So anyways, that's what I have been reading, and obviously I've been listening to the audiobook we're going to talk about, and I'm so excited. So shall we jump into that? Do you want to, Emma, do you want to kind of just set up what the story is about, and then we can dive into our questions?
Sure. So Getting Real, it's an Audible original, which means that the audiobook comes out first. So the audiobook is out now. It's narrated by Zachary Weber and Andy Arndt, who are fantastic. And so Getting Real it's book 3 in the Getting Some series, but it can definitely be read as a standalone. It's an interconnected series, so each book is a different couple. And Getting Real tells the story of Dr. Connor Daniels, who is in his early 40s, and he is divorced and raising his 3 sons, mostly on his own. And he's kind of dipping his toe back into the dating scene. It hasn't gone real well. And
I'm just thinking of one of your mentions of a face tattoo. Sorry.
Yeah, needless to say, put it mildly, it hasn't gone that well. And Connor is an emergency room doctor, and Violet Robinson is an emergency room nurse, emergency department nurse, who has been crushing on him for just ever. And things happen, and they end up getting together, and it's a very low angst.
I really appreciated that.
We loved that.
I am so
absolutely
pro
loved
low
that.
Yeah, for me, this was my pandemic book, you know. So I'm just gonna jump right in and say, so this was a year late. I ended it in a year late. I'm cringing inside even just saying that. Because what happened was I had started, and I knew right from the jump that I was going to enjoy writing it. I love writing kids. He has 3 boys who are 10.
It's one of my questions and comments
17.
too. Mm-hmm.
And I love writing kids. So I was really excited, and I kind of had the whole story and, you know, the dialogue, and it was all really going well. And then everything shut down, and my kids were both home, and my husband was home 24/7. And, you know, you were talking about like finding time to write. I've always, I was a stay-at-home mom. And when I wrote my first book, I had insomnia. So I wrote it kind of in the middle of the night when everyone was sleeping. And then every book since I've written, you know, while the kids were at school. So having everyone home, you know, I have an office. I figured I could do this. I've been doing this for a while now. And it just did not work out. I could not separate myself. And that's plus with everything that was going on. I just couldn't, you know what I mean? And I knew that the story could be really lovely, you know, if I just gave it the time and the attention that it deserved. So funny enough, what I ended up doing, how I finished the book was everyone was still home, and I ended up, there's a park about a half hour from my house. And it's about a 2-mile walking trail. And it's really nice next to a canal, it's through the woods. So I started walking, you know, just for kind of my own like mental health and, you know, exercise.
Very important.
Yes, exactly. And then I started, as you talked about, you know, ideas would come to me while I was walking. So I'd be writing on my phone. I started bringing my laptop with me. I said, oh, you know, after I walk, I'm going to stay for an hour, stay for,
Nice.
Well, I ended up finishing the book. I kid you not, there were days I was in my car for about 6 hours.
I love that.
Just right.
Those are the
I had
best
my
days.
coffees. Oh my God, it was amazing because it was so nice as someone who's always worked from home and had to manage those distractions, the dogs, the TV, the kids coming home, phone calls. It was so nice to go somewhere. And I would get up, I would be there at like 7 a.m. Like I had a spot in the parking lot and it would throw me off if someone was like in my spot.
Oh no.
You're like, oh no, this is important.
Yeah.
Yes, like excuse me. No, I never effed moved. But and that's how I was able to finish the book. And it was so nice to be able to leave, and do my work and really focus and then come home and be able to put it aside for the most part, and then just like that was my work day. And I think the change in scenery and the change in setting for myself kind of reinvigorated my writing and my excitement for the story as well. So
that's
awesome. So that's just a little aside is that I finished it in my car.
I love that.
Yeah. But so it's a really warm, feel good read, I think. Listen. It's a real warm, feel good story. And I'm really excited. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. And I'm really excited to kind of share it.
I got a little nervous there that you were going to like stomp my heart out, but you came through.
No, I think
every book in this series it's very low angst, it's very feel good, but there is like a poignant moment. The other two books are Getting Schooled and Getting Played. And Getting Schooled is Connor's brother's story. It's a second chance romance. And Getting Played is Connor's brother's best friend Dean's story. And that's more of like a surprise pregnancy kind of story.
And then they get married in this one.
Exactly, yes. But each of the books is really low angst, but there is that one moment, like that one chapter, that one poignant kind of moment, it's emotional.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I have two boys and I was just like,
yeah. Oh, I cried in my car.
Yeah.
I really appreciated, I feel like, because I read a lot of romance. I read a lot of, listen to a lot of romance, a lot of different genres or subgenres. And I feel like it's really hard to find, and it's not that I'm looking for it, but I just, in listening to your book, I realized that I haven't listened to a lot of stories where they're very mature people and there isn't a lot of angst. And I really liked that. I feel like, it's not one of those stories where everybody's thinking something and every action is based on an assumption instead of having a conversation. Yeah. Like there's a little bit of, confusion or heartache or whatever, but it's
when Connor's a bonehead near the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh my God, taking advice. Oh yeah. Anyway, but there are definitely instances that are more human and like people making mistakes, but it's not like this drawn out kind of ridiculously like, come on, like just have a conversation moments. And I just think that I really appreciated that. And it really helped elevate the story for me. And I think that it was also really cool that you had the age gap in your characters. So it felt more mature as well. So
I think it's so interesting that you say that, LP, because I had that exact same thought to the point that I was even Googling. I Googled, was like misconceptions as like the conflict in romance or something like that. Because I was like, I feel like this is so great because I kept contemporary romance isn't my usual genre. I usually read like fantasy and sci-fi. And so I feel like a lot of the contemporary romance, at least that I have read, there's a lot of misconception as conflict, like, and so I was like, I kept like waiting for that to come up more. It's just like PTSD or something, but it never happened. It's like, there were two little misconceptions, but they were resolved so quickly and maturely. And I was just like, this is so great. And I feel like I want to be like mad at the other books for making me expect some sort of like misconception conflict to pop up. But it was just, there's so many other conflicts in real life that it's like, we don't need necessarily these misconceptions.
Like the big kicker at near the end where I didn't see that coming at all. And in fact, at first I thought it was going to be her that had that something was happening. They were just on the phone, and I was like,
so did I.
Oh my goodness, that would have been great too.
He had that thought about telling her how he felt, and he was like, because life is so short, you never know when something's going to happen, and then that happens, and I'm like, no.
He got the brother, the presents. Oh yeah. No, I think you did a really great job. Like I said, I really appreciated the age gap. I really think that your characters acted their ages, and I absolutely. You were talking about how you love writing children, and I think they made the story like they just put it on a whole other level. They cracked me up. Like I was just laughing. I was just like, oh my God, I'm sure a kid would actually, I don't have children, but I was like, I'm sure a kid would actually say that. And I would just be like, oh my God, I just loved it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. I have 2 children, and they're young adults now, but they were definitely, they're very smart. They're very funny. They're very outspoken. I can laugh about it now, but there were definitely some moments of them growing up that if you've read my books with children, Getting Real primarily, and Sustained is the other one that has a lot of kids, then you've met my kids, because there's so much of their kind of energy. And that's why I was excited to write it, because I feel like life can just be funny. You know what I mean? Life in itself can just be really humorous. And this series has been, I feel like my most realistic. The hometown of Lakeside, New Jersey, was based on my own New Jersey hometown. Oh,
I love that.
Really small working class. It's a great place to grow up. So a lot of those kind of warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feelings, I think, just got infused right into the whole series. But yeah, no, I mean, kids can be hilarious. And also, being around Connor's age myself, I have a younger sister who's like in her late 20s, and we talk sometimes about how different things are as far as dating and kind of reacclimating yourself to that. So I feel like it's realistic, even though there are some misunderstandings and he's a moron. Although I do love love a man who becomes like a fool for love in a way. I just think that there's something so delicious about that. It's just so funny.
And he really was like such a bonehead. His whole little group. His group is just sitting there. Everybody is telling him like, you are being an idiot. And he's like, no, I read this. I read it.
It's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because she was kind of the exact opposite. She was at that, I can't remember if it was a blind date, but that first date she was on, and she's just talking about all these disgusting things that happen in ER. And he's like, check, please. I gotta get out of here. So it's like, she's almost on a whole other level too. Like they just don't get it. It's hilarious. It's really
and I think it made sense. I mean, Connor, he's 42 and he's really attractive and he's a good guy and he's a good dad. But I think it particularly made, her having her backstory and her family history, I think it made sense that she would be attracted to those qualities, to the maturity. And that kind of started in Getting Schooled too. There does seem to be a theme with this series where there's something really, someone described it as a comfort read. And I feel like that, even though there are those moments that could fit, and I think that comes back to the communication between the hero and the heroine. Like, it's not so much with Getting Schooled. And I remember talking about this with my editor. It wasn't so much, are they going to, are they going to make it? Are they going to be together? It was how. Because they were, and there was something really sweet and beautiful and romantic about that. So I really liked in Getting Real, even while writing it, I enjoyed it. It made me happy that they were solid and they were, as things progress, you really believe that they're going to work together. And it's just I
also really liked too. And is the mom's name Stacy? I'm sorry, I'm blank. Is that her name? Yeah, sorry. It's been a couple days since I finished it. I even like how that even rounded out. Like it was very mature. I did too. It seemed, and again, I'm not a mom. I can't relate to her, but it seemed realistic that would be a thing. You crave your alone time. And anyways, I think I like that even that came to a full circle, and it had a really nice close to it. And she wasn't this horrible parent who just left her kids and went off for some unknown reason and left this dad who's amazing to take care of. You know what I mean? Like it was very real. I feel like her struggle was very real. So I really like that too.
Yeah, and I think that comes partly to, again, you know, I've been married for 21 years, and we still like each other, thank goodness.
Well, that's good.
But, you know, having had our own marriage, you know, all our friends, we got married, you know, in our 20s, and all our friends got married in our 20s, and family members. And, you know, I'm kind of at a point where I've seen some marriages make it and some marriages don't.
Right.
And some of them make it for, you know, very different reasons. Sometimes you just grow apart, people change, and they don't necessarily change together or change in ways that make sense for them to stay together. And, you know, I mean, Stacey and Connor definitely had some contentious moments, but I didn't think it had to be, like you said, the dramatic conflict. It can just be, I think it's very relatable, you know, especially for women, especially now, you know, when you give and you give and you give, and you just need those moments for yourself, and you need that time for yourself sometimes. And you don't necessarily have to be the villain.
Yeah. Well, and I also think like it just, Vile's character was really well-rounded, because if you're an ER nurse, like you have to be strong. And so I feel like her character was very consistent, and I really liked that. It wasn't like this huge, like you said, or like we've been talking about, there wasn't this huge flare up of angst. Like it just made, like her reactions were very realistic and made sense. So, anyway.
And I think a lot of people, I mean, the nurses that I know, you know, are very, you know, matter of fact, and they're just able to deal with things as they come, and then they can react emotionally to them later, you know what I mean, when they have the time to do that. And I think Violet's reaction was really realistic, you know, because when things happen, and, you know, the guy that you're in love with and that you've kind of started, they're 6 months into their relationship and then you kind of look at this person that he was married to for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
You know, and how
they have children together, they cannot be broken apart by that bond, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And how can you not start to, and I like, one of the things that I do like, and I'm kind of proud of, is that she did say, like, he's a good man, he's an honest man.
Yeah.
That wasn't what she was afraid of.
She wasn't holding it against him. Yeah.
No, I think her fears were just feelings could change, and is that going to happen, and is she going to, and I think that's really relatable. You know, I think this whole series, it's funny because when I started writing the Beach House book and I was plotting it out, Getting Real and the Getting Some series were so down to earth and realistic. I actually started to think to myself, like, is this too out there? Like that they would be like stuck in this house together, because there is no really too out there for romance. Like some romance stories, like you can go anywhere, you know, kidnapped by aliens.
Transported to ancient Egypt.
P.S. You're really selling this new book, so we're gonna have to listen to it and read it, because I'm really interested. But I know, LF, you had questions about the kind of medical side of this, so do you want to? I feel like this is the perfect time to ask.
I agree wholeheartedly. So I was just curious. I have like very minimal medical elements in my books, and so I was curious. Did you feel like you had to do a bunch of research, or did you have experience working in this kind of a setting or in the medical field at all? Because I would be having to look up so much stuff.
So I love that question. So no, I have no medical knowledge whatsoever, besides, you know, taking my own children to the emergency room in the course of their lives.
This is my experience.
Yes, that's the extent of it. I do know some nurses, so I did have some references to be able to touch base with them about certain specific questions. I researched when it came to hospitals, different levels of hospitals. So I found a lot of that information online, the different titles of different doctors and how that works. And I also, and again, because I like to kind of, not that I like to infuse the realism of it, but I on medical Twitter, there's a bunch of doctors on Twitter. And they're really funny. They have some great content, but like they'll post like an EKG, like a heart printout, and then say to each other, okay, can you diagnose this? And they talk about things, and they talk about things that are like I couldn't even begin to like T waves and all these kinds of things. But it was interesting. And I also joined a Reddit group. Well, didn't join, but I looked at some Reddit threads for medical students and interns and newly graduated medical degrees. And that's how, like, there's a part where she talks about, this is hilarious, but where Connor wears compression shorts under his scrubs the one day that he forgot to, and she talks about his penis. Wrote a poem about it. But that is
that's
where
hilarious.
Reddit is where they were talking about, because the scrub fabric is very thin.
Yeah.
So a lot of male doctors will wear compression shorts, and that's where I kind of got that information. And I do feel like it infuses some,
I love it.
just, realism, into the way that they talk and certain phrases and that kind of thing. The one thing that if I had to go back and add, and I didn't, apparently, especially for ER doctors, you're never supposed to say the word quiet, because it's like a jinx. Like, it's real quiet tonight.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then it's not quiet anymore. And I'd written that down for the notes that I wrote down, and then I forgot to go back and add that. But other than that, so that's the research that I did. And then it was really important for me. There's a CPR scene when Violet and Connor are performing CPR and on a child. And I had researched that several different sources, because I wanted to make sure that the details of that were correct.
Right.
And what's interesting is the book had already gone to print, and the audiobook had already been recorded. And originally, so the ratio of compressions to breath for a child is 30-2. But that's only when there's one person performing CPR. When there's two people performing CPR, it's 15-2. And I didn't realize that until literally like everything had been recorded. But I called my editor.
Come on, Anna, don't you know everything about medical field? I mean, come on.
You see my face. But I said, we have to change that, because I did think, and I do think, people remember things from things you remember fiction. And that was one detail that, God forbid, someone needed that information. We needed to make sure that that was right. And they changed it. Audible worked with me, and they re-recorded it, and we fixed it. Not just, it was bigger than just not wanting to take someone out of the story because I got a detail wrong. That's something that I feel like could have an effect. So
I totally get it. I feel like my husband's a mechanic, and we watch these action movies, and he's like, that would never happen. I was like, oh, come on. I just want to watch the movie.
Yeah. My husband is a carpenter, and that's his response to like every renovation show.
Like, oh my God.
He's like, that's so fake.
No, but people do notice that. So it's totally makes sense. Yeah. In fact, on that same point, I reached out to my narrator for my book that just released this week. I reached out to her because she's already recording it. And I said, so I've had beta readers and editors and proofreaders, but another like final proofreader just noticed that there's like this line is repeated twice. Can you like not record that or take it out if you've already recorded it? So like, I totally get it. I'm just like, damn it.
Yes, isn't it crazy?
You just change this one thing.
Yeah. This is from Sustain, which is a book that was published a few years ago, but there's a certain quote graphic from Sustain that I love. It's like my favorite quote from the book. And I'm not kidding. I've probably looked at it like 100 times, and there was a typo in it, and I never saw it.
God, isn't that crazy?
I couldn't not see it. Like, how did
shit drives me crazy, but it happens all the time.
All the time.
It's real. Hashtag real problems, guys. Author problems are real. So I kind of want to talk about more about the audiobook, because I mentioned that I love many different sub-genres of romance, and Jacob Morgan / Zachary Weber is one of my favorite narrators. So I was just curious, he is narrating a few of your books, right? I think I looked, and there was a few in the series that he did, or maybe all of them actually. But anyway, do you have any say as to who is narrating your books? Because I mean, Andy she's really famous too, and she's great. But I mean, I have a special, place in my heart for Teddy Hamilton and Jacob Morgan / okay, sorry, I forget, they all been like 5-10 different names, but Zachary. So anyways, I was just curious, do you get to choose who is going to be the voice of Connor, or did Audible pick that for you?
Yeah, usually they send me suggestions. So it's kind of a collaborative process. So they'll send me a couple different options. But right from the beginning, so Zachary and Andy narrated the whole series. And right from the Zachary is just Andy's always great. Andy has a voice that you want to be best friends with. But Zachary was perfect for the series. There's just something, and about the way he does the kids' voices. Andy does great kids' voices too.
Hers were fantastic. I loved hers.
So I do have usually they'll send me a few options and I give feedback. but we were pretty, I think Zachary and Andy were like, just like the top choices. And we were so thrilled that they came back and continued the whole series, because I think the narrators, you know, can make or break an audiobook, you know.
I always wonder, so like I know Andy and Jacob or Zach, I don't even know what to call them, but anyway, I know that they worked on a ton of books together, and I always wonder, like, do they really know each other, or do they just each send in their files? You know what I mean? Like, I always wonder how, like, do they actually know each other in person? I get very excited about these things.
I think I think there's a group of narrators probably who have been to different, you know, conventions together. Sometimes they go, I think a bunch of the narrators were in one of the London signings.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I must have stalked somebody because I knew that. I don't know who it was. But what I was going to tell you is I am a member of this, I don't know if you know what Discord is, but I'm a member of this Discord group, and they have, it's like this online kind of, I'm going to say chat platform, but it's not really what it is. But you can go on, and specifically there's a romance group that I'm a part of, and Andy goes in and she'll record I'm sure it's not all of them, but she'll go in and she'll record her chapters for different books, and you could sit in there with her and you can listen to her fuck up. You can listen to her. She'll talk to you. It's the coolest thing. So side note, if you want me to send you that information, let me know. It's really cool. Like, if you're just doing admin work or whatever, and you just like pop in and she's on, you can just listen to her working, and it's so fun. I haven't found Jacob yet. So I'm going to start stalking him, but I haven't found him yet, but I found her.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah,
so interesting.
They really took the material and just like elevated it. Like, there's just something about, because sometimes I can have a hard time listening to my own audiobooks. I don't know if you guys, there's just something about hearing the words that I've written out loud.
Yeah, it can be strange.
I love it.
I think it's strange.
Really?
I think it's strange.
Yeah, I'm weird. Yeah, I just love it.
Just sometimes. But this series, Getting Schooled is the same thing. Getting Schooled, and they did great with all of them, but I feel like Getting Schooled and Getting Real, they like elevated the material. Like, they took the material and they made the funny parts more humorous with their delivery, with their accents, sweeter. You know, they really perform the material. So it's really lovely. And this one, when they sent me Getting Real, the early copy, like, I'm not exaggerating, I listened to it like 3 times in a row.
Oh, I love that.
They was just so pleasant and sweet and funny to listen to them, you know, perform this story. So.
Isn't that like the coolest feeling? That's happened to me a few times where they send me the audiobook and I listen to it. I'm like, did I really write this? Because this is amazing. Yes. Like, I not to toot my own horn, but I'm like, these people, they like made this fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know, isn't that so cool? You could listen to, because normally it's not like you just, or at least for me, I don't just go back and read my books, but to be able to listen to it and have these characters have a voice and they're in your mind and it sounds so real and just awesome and invigorating. I love that feeling. Absolutely.
I don't ever reread my books with my eyes, ever. But I will listen to my books.
That is the path to madness.
Yeah, I'm like, it is gone. It is done. I mean,
That's smart, actually. I never thought about that.
I will reference, like, I'll like open up the, you know, like the document on my computer, or I have my paperbacks for the 2 other series in the new series that I'm writing is in a world that has 2 other series. So sometimes I have to reference things, you know, so I want to make sure that I get it right. So I will I'll crack the books open to look at that, but
and cringe as you change.
Yeah. And I'm like, don't read the words, but it's totally different when I'm listening to it and somebody else is like transforming it. And then I think the thing is when I hear somebody else reading my words, that I'm not like thinking about how I should rewrite it.
Yeah.
So it's hard because I said this last time. Sorry, listeners, I'm saying it again. We don't have a recorder on this thing like we usually do, so I don't know how much time we have.
I think we're still under an hour. I feel like we started at like 4 or something, but anyway.
It doesn't matter. Well, I want to be aware of Emma's time, but we have a couple more questions, but this is not this isn't. Oh my God, now I've lost my question. It doesn't fucking matter anyway. I was like, it's too much intro. Now I don't even know what I'm just gonna say. it was something about audio. Oh, I know what it was. Okay, so you were saying, so this is an Audible original. So how does that work exactly? So this came out essentially way before the actual print. So how does that? I've never actually talked to an author who's done that before. So how does that work for you exactly? You have to have.
It's really interesting. Yeah. So I submit the manuscript. So I self-published the ebook in the print. But because it's Audible original, it's specifically written to be released on audiobook first.
Okay.
And a couple other authors have done them. I think Kristen Ashley has one or two out. So it can range anywhere, for mine, the audiobook comes out in October, and then 3 months later, the ebook and the print come out. So sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 4 months, sometimes it's 2 months.
It's interesting.
Yes, but the audiobook is released first. And it does kind of change a little bit, at least for me. Like when I'm writing the manuscript, I was writing notes to myself, like we could take this out for the ebook, because sometimes for the audio, the narrator may have to say, I thought to myself.
Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it won't convey. Yeah.
Exactly. You can italicize it and the reader knows that the thought is not spoken aloud. Yes. So there's little notes in there. So the manuscripts are slightly different. But yeah, no, I worked with Audible's editor, and they do the different rounds of editing, and we have the narrator picked out and the cover. I work them the cover, and it's fun because I have a lot of readers, I think, who read the ebook or the print first and then go back to do the audiobook to have that kind of secondary experience with it. But a lot of readers with this series specifically, all 3 books have been Audible originals. I found a lot of my readers will go with the audiobook because the audiobooks are really well done. The quality is really good. That. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, when I'm writing them in my mind, knowing they're going to be heard first. I think there's a little bit more dialogue than some of my less internal thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, knowing that it's going to be listened to first, that's kind of always in the back of my mind, that they're going to hear this before they read it.
It's really interesting. So I recently signed with Podium, and they are exclusive with Amazon, kind of the same thing, but Audible and ACX. And so I have the option to do the same thing that you're doing, and I've never really considered it because it just seems like a lot of stress. But at the same time, I know like audiobooks are such a big thing now. It's just really interesting. I never even thought about having like kind of 2 different manuscripts in a way. You know what I mean? I think it's just really interesting because I also in my back of my mind is always like the whole whisper sync thing too, right? So how does that, do you know if that affects it at all? Or sorry, we're getting into like author talk here, but
it doesn't affect the whisper sync as far as I know at all.
That's awesome.
And I believe so. I think Getting Schooled, the other Audible originals, it starts off exclusive to Audible. And I don't know if eventually, I think Getting Schooled is available on other platforms now. So I don't know how long it's exclusive.
That's really interesting though.
But yeah, and then this series too is also available in Audible Plus, which is their subscription program. So I do feel you kind of reach other even audiobook listeners who are part of the subscription program who don't necessarily buy, kind of like KU, who might not buy outside of the subscription program. So, you kind of have that opportunity to reach new listeners and reach new readers. And the experience for me has been great. It's been really enjoyable and really positive. Yeah.
Very cool. I know, Lindsey, you had questions about her expanding or questions about the series in general.
Oh, yeah, I did. So I was wondering, is this the end of the series? Are you planning on writing any more in this town?
So I think for full-length books, this is the end of the series. This is kind of what I envisioned. There's been a lot of requests for Tim. Timmy is the 4th brother, and
he's the one with the bad advice, right?
Right.
He's the one with the bad advice.
That would be pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie.
And he's a fireman.
Yeah.
So a lot of people kind of want to see Timmy
like
down a peg. Yeah. So
getting hotter.
Exactly. Getting burned.
Oh, I like that.
So I think what I could what I'm envisioning actually is a novella, maybe like a holiday novella.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We catch up with everybody, but then also tell, Tim's story would be the main story. And then there's also a short story that I would like to post. I have to write it. That involves Garrett and Callie. They're mentioned in Garrett is Connor's younger brother, and they're mentioned. Their story isn't getting schooled, but they definitely play roles in Getting Real. But they dated in high school. So what I have in my head is just a short story of them in high school. It's kind of like the first time they tell each other that they love each other. And so it would be, definitely PG but I'm thinking maybe like that would be like just a bonus content, like free short story that I would like put on my website kind of thing, maybe around Valentine's Day if I could swing it.
Don't you love that we're, as authors, we can do whatever the fuck we want? Like we can add a novella or a short story or a bonus scene or whatever for the newsletter whenever we want. Like we can do and that's the coolest thing. Like when I hearing you talk about it, I was like, God, that's awesome. You can do whatever.
I feel like came up with the idea, for the companion novella for the Royally series, because I know how these certain things play out, and they kind of play around in my head, and I enjoy thinking about them. So I figured my readers might enjoy reading about them, and it was just like you said, it was just trying to think of like, okay, how do I share this? How best to provide this for them? And for that, because it's probably about 15 scenes, I figured like a novella ebook print would be the best way. But when it's a short story, something that grabs you and that you fall in love with, you could just share it. It's the coolest job in the whole world.
It is.
Well, kind of speaking of that, we talked about how I've read the Royally series, and you've written a few books in this series. And I know you have another legal series, right? So I'm just curious, is there a subgenre or a trope or something specific that you actually, that is maybe your favorite, but then also something you haven't written that maybe you really want to write in the future?
It's really funny. So the Beach House book that I'm working on, coming back again,
the dark romance.
About it. Yes. Originally, that was like a paranormal.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of like the age-old story, like she inherits this house and she is like a ghost in the house.
I love it.
Yes. And I switched it because the original idea that I conceived of ended up being that he's actually not a ghost and he's a real person and it was all a dream kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if I could sell that without readers feeling like, I betrayed them because they had been invested. Yeah. So, and then I came up with this idea, which I like better.
But that's how it works, right? I love that.
Yeah. So I could see myself doing maybe like a paranormal-ish. I've always loved, like I grew up loving like horror movies, horror stories. Yeah. So I would love to do some type of like, again, darker horror-ish, suspenseful kind of with romantic elements.
Oh, that's so cool. Ooh,
yeah.
Gothic.
So I can see that in my
It's future. So fun. Do the Gothic thing.
I love that.
Paranormal
all
Gothic. Yes. Okay, sorry.
And I love all the visuals that you guys are talking about. That's so exciting.
Yeah. According to your website, you have a book that is being made into a movie.
Yeah.
I didn't stalk you enough to know that. Okay. I need to
so jealous.
Yes. Yeah. So Passion Flicks, which is a streaming service, they make films, and their big focus is turning romance novels into film. So they've had several releases and adaptations, and they adapted Tangled, which is my first book, into a movie, and it was filmed in August, and it's going to be incredible. Like I'm really excited about it. The script is wonderful. I think readers who love the book are really going to love the movie, and people who haven't read the book will enjoy the movie too. That's what I was kind of really excited for. I feel like the mark of like a really good adaptation is when you can be connected to the characters, because we all know, I mean, I feel like with a book, there's a little bit more depth.
Right.
All the time. That's why we love the book usually more than the movie, is because there's places you can go, in the heads of characters that you can't really reach in a film. But I think with this, it's very fun. It's a very fun, lighthearted, sexy kind of battle of the sexes kind of storyish. And I think they did a great job with it. The casting's wonderful and the script was wonderful, and Tracy's director was phenomenal. So
did you get to have
exciting.
Any input on anything like casting or anything like that?
Casting, yeah, you know, we talked about every casting decision. They kind of gave me some options or just some insight on where they were going. The script, you know, Tracy and I worked really close together as far as literally went over every line of the script at one point, which was really exciting. You know, it's like a different medium and it's a different process, and it was lovely to be a part of that, because a lot of times, you know, if it so happens that your book gets picked up to be adapted, I don't know how much in other respects the authors are involved.
Yeah.
But it was nice. It was great to be involved. And I always said, like, this is not my wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Like, I can talk about the characters and I can talk about the story and what I think is needed to convey what we want to convey. But as far as the visuals and as far as the movie, like it made me realize, I didn't realize how much my characters talk in the book. But like when you're converting it to a script, like 5-6 sentences, like that's a long time for just like the camera to be like on you as you're talking.
Interesting.
Yes, that's what like stood out to me the most. I'm like, wow, they talk a lot.
But you know what's funny, because in books, so dialogue is what moves the story, right? So that's what makes sense when you're reading a book. That's really interesting to me, how it's so different, like when you transfer it onto screen. I love that.
Yeah, it's tighter. Yeah, and the dialogue transferred great. But it's definitely like they had to cut down things and kind of make it more condensed, just because, like I said, when you have a picture, you just can't have the same person just standing there talking for like half a page.
Well, I will tell you, we had Rachel Van Dyken on the show a while ago, a few episodes, I don't know. She's awesome. And she also had, I think Passion Flux has made her one or two of her books into and I'm just like, okay, you guys are really selling it. I feel like I need a subscription now, because I really want to watch these.
Yeah, no, it was a phenomenal experience. I'm really excited. They've really done just a great job with it. And like I said, it was a great experience for me to be involved in that.
How amazing.
Did you get to go to the set and like watch them acting out your story? Oh my God.
So they filmed in Atlanta, and I went down for 2 days, and I'd never been on a film set before at all. And the energy, it's amazing. Like everybody's just like there's all these, like everybody's just kind of doing their own thing, but working together to make it all work. So that was amazing. But yes, so there is in Tangled, there is a nut. He kind of, the main character screws up badly. And he brings in his old high school principal. He went to Catholic school. And he brings in his old high school principal.
I already love it.
Kind of like plead his case to the heroine. And I was on the set on the day that they filmed that. So here I'm standing there, like in amongst this office kind of setting, and there's a woman, an actress in like full like Mother Superior like regalia. And I went to Catholic school. And I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, you know, like 10 years ago, I had an idea and thought it would be funny, like, oh, I'm gonna put a nun in the book. And now there's like a woman that's dressed as a nun.
Oh my God.
A movie. Like, how is this like?
How is this life? Is this real life? What is that kid? That kid coming home from the dentist. After the dentist, he's like, is this real life?
Exactly. So it was lovely. And yes, to see them, you know, and to see them just take it and make it something really special. You know what I mean? It was wonderful. And it was just I'm so grateful, you know, to do what I do. Yeah. And to just have had, you know, the experiences and the opportunities that I have. It's been amazing kind of journey, and it continues to be. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
How long have you been writing, just out of curiosity?
So Tangled was published in 2013.
Okay. That's about when we started.
Yeah. So writing full time. And isn't it crazy like how much things have changed? Like the market has changed.
Oh my God. Yeah, like audiobooks weren't really a thing back then. Like
Discs,
audio discs was a thing when we were selling them at the bookstore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I know. I was talking about that today with some other author friends. I was just like, oh my gosh, how many waves have we ridden in the last, almost 10 years. So
yeah, never born.
Crazy town. I love it though. That's why that's why it's so fun talking with other authors, because it's just like, it's awesome to have the same shared experiences and be able to talk to them. Like, I feel like, Lindsey and I have talked about this before, but our husbands are great. They're really supportive, but they don't do what we do. So it's like, it's different. You can't just talk to them and there's like a relatable conversation, No. But then we get to talk to others who's just like, these moments were just like, oh my God, yes. It's so like when it clicks, or when the character's talking to you, or, oh my God, the audiobook, it just brought my story to life. Like, those are things that my husband would be like, that's really cool. I have no clue what you're talking about, but awesome.
My husband's always like, why don't I read your audiobook? And I'm just like, oh.
Like, not. Yeah.
Don't do that.
I tell my husband the plots, like once I finally like figure it all out, and I'm excited because I have to know everything before I start writing. Like, I have to know beginning to end. And he's so good because he listens, and like I could see his eyes.
Yeah, glaze over. Oh yeah, I know that look.
That's
so do I.
That sounds great.
Oh my God. I know. Or everyone's like, how come you don't just read your own? Do you know how many people have said that? How come you don't just narrate your own audiobooks? I'm like,
oh my God.
No, that is not a thing that we're doing.
So I don't have to actually speak.
That's not a thing.
Right.
I know. Anyway, that's too funny.
Great. But no, and I always find it, and again, it never ceases to amaze me just how hard it is.
Yeah.
Every book, there's no easy, like you think like, oh, I know the story inside out, right? But it's still hard. It's still hard, and it's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still amazing. It's still awesome. It's still fantastic. And then there's that times where you're like, oh my God, I forgot how to write a book.
Yeah. And it's so slow. Like, I mean, it's like you read a book in a day, but it's like, oh my God, it takes so long to just write the book. Just write it already.
About that today. I really want to get back into writing romance, because I started writing romance. I really want to get back into writing it. And I was just like, oh my God, I have so many ideas. And I was like, I started sitting down to write a scene, and I was like, but I have to write a whole book, not just a scene. Like, I don't want to take the time. Like, I have other projects.
It's like,
I was like, but I want to, but I can't, but I want to. It takes so much time.
Like, why is it so long? Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Anyway, this was super fun.
Yes. This was super fun. So, Emma, can you tell listeners where you would like them to find you on the internet?
Yes. So my website is authoremmachase.com, and I've been on Instagram a lot lately. So Instagram and Twitter, I interact a lot on Twitter as well. And I'm on Facebook too, just less so. I pop into Facebook just a couple times a week. Cool. So if you would like to find me on Instagram, but my website has all that information, so pop on. I have a mailing list as well, newsletter, that you can sign up for on my website. And we do a lot of giveaways, and we do a lot of early kind of sneak peeks as I'm writing along. I'll send that out to my subscribers.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. So Lindsey, just to be clear, we're going to make sure all that's in the show notes.
Yes,
so
that was me just taking
okay.
notes.
No, yeah.
Awesome.
No, she's good. She's writing it all down. We're going to put it on the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I tend to stalk authors that have been on this show, so I'll probably sign up for your newsletter. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, no, please do. Please
I don't know, like sometimes I just like to email like, oh my God, I'm so excited for your new release or whatever. So anyway, I like to be hip and cool and what's going on in the world. The reading world, let's be clear.
Newsletter. I'm not, they say a lot like consistency, and you should send your newsletter out once every 2 weeks, but I tend to only send it out like when I have
something important to say.
Yeah. So like you'll hear from me like, it's coming, new release, and then you won't hear from me for 6 months. but when I have something like important to say, or sale, if something goes on sale, then I'll let everybody know. But yeah, I'm not like a regular recipe like newsletter kind of person. I generally only
come on, it's not like you have nothing, it's not like you have anything going on at home. I mean, I don't understand why you can't just like pump it out. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, so thank you, Emma, for joining us. We really, really loved getting real. And thank you everybody for listening. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode's links and book recommendations. And LP and I will be back in a couple of weeks for a fun little book chat. That's just the two of us. And we're going to be discussing Rhapsodic by, I'm going to butcher her name, Laura Thalassa. What did you decide it was?
I decided, well, it's not on my page anymore. I think it's Thalassa. I don't know. Okay. I invited her on the show.
Laura.
I invited her on the show. I'll tell her, please, for the love of God, please don't judge me. I'm sorry. I love your book, but please don't judge me.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're reading that. And it's really good so far. And if you're enjoying the show, I'm like all flustered and I don't know where I am in here. We would love it if you left us a rating and or review on iTunes. And don't forget to join the No Shelf Control Facebook group, linked to in the show notes. And also, if you like YouTube and want to like watch us make hand gestures and funny expressions,
move around in our chairs and get all flustered and red face. Yeah, you should come and watch
and drink.
And we drink a lot.
Yeah, then check us out on YouTube. I think if you just like look for No Shelf Control podcast on YouTube, it pops up. Or me. It's the only thing on my channel. Author Lindsey Sparks. So don't forget to join the Facebook group. And until next time, happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading adventures.
Bye,